Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and everything in between. Welcome back to Geeks Watch. Today I want to talk about Harlem Nights, an image of which you will see over my shoulder. Now, normally I hold up my little box and do the thing, but this isn't a movie that I actually own, but streaming services do exist. So I can still watch the movie even though I don't own it. So there. uh, Harlem Nights is about, well, as the story opens, we see Sugar Ray, who owns like a small, poor gambling club in Harlem. One of his customers is getting irate, threatens to kill Sugar Ray and the little kid who Sugar Ray has doing errands for him. The kid gets a hold of Sugar Ray's gun, shoots the guy. Sugar Ray confronts him. He's like, he was going to kill us, so I grabbed your gun and shot him. Basically, Sugar Ray takes this young kid, Vernon. Everyone calls him Quick. I think it's Vernish Brown. Everyone calls him Quick. So, fast forward 20 years, Sugar Ray is played by Richard Pryor. Quick is played by Eddie Murphy. So, 20 years later, they run a very, very successful Sugar Ray Club. They're all very wealthy now. They own this huge club, taking tons of money, gambling and booze in the front, brothel in the back, so on and so forth. Their success attracts the attention of a local mob boss, Calhoun, who wants to drive them out of town so he can take their business. And that's basically the film. It's a period piece from the 1920s, 1930s kind of thing, but from a comedian and from a black perspective. This film's got some heavy hitters in it: Richard Pryor, Eddie Murphy, as I said, Della Reese, Red Fox, some guy's name I can't remember who works with Eddie Murphy all the time. I'm drawing a blank. I knew it when I was looking at the notes a minute ago, but Arsenio Hall's in this film too. So a lot of big names in comedy. When this film opened, opening week was the highest grossing film of the week, ahead of Look Who's Talking. It even beat out Little Mermaid, which was released. Second week it fell to second place. Third week it fell to third place. This film opened at the same time as Look Who's Talking, Little Mermaid, Back to the Future 2, and National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. So it had some stiff competition. Critics panned the film, though. It was basically, critics considered it one of the worst films of the year. I think about 1989. It was basically considered one of the worst films of the year. Even today, historically, it won like a Razzie Award for like one of the worst films of the year. Lots of people panned this film. I saw it when it came out and I liked it. I didn't think it was great, but I thought it was solid enough. You've got all these comedy heavies in there, and I think there's a lot of great individual scenes in the film. There is an infamous fight scene which popped up on YouTube, which made me want to talk about the film, between Eddie Murphy's character and Della Reese's character. It is perhaps, in my opinion, one of the funniest scenes of the film. Not just that, but a lot of the dialogue is just, it sounds natural. It's these guys just ripping on each other, giving each other a hard time, and they just banter back and forth constantly. And it does sound, it sounds the way people who know each other for a long time can talk to each other. A lot of kind of mean-spirited comments that aren't meant to be mean. The way you give your friends crap for just existing. A lot of dialogue in the film between the characters is like that. Sugar Ray doesn't do that, but a lot of Red Fox, Della Reese, Eddie Murphy, these guys just banter back and forth. Even, Richard Pryor's character is supposed to be like the straight man, but he still comes up with some funny stuff. Behind the scenes, though, this is Eddie Murphy's only directorial film, the only film he's directed. And he 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 wanted to do a period piece. He wanted to direct. He wanted to collaborate with Richard Pryor. This film is all those things. And he said, like, the best stuff, the funniest stuff was off camera. These guys would be, off camera just cracking jokes and just doing stuff. And then they had, they turned the camera on and had to get to work. And he said he actually did not enjoy directing the film. He never did it again. This is the only film he's directed. He felt that the critics, he said when he took the critics who gave the film a hard time, he said, I think, he said there was a lot of valid criticisms. The film, we wrote the film really quickly. The writing wasn't as solid as it should have been. I had 1 foot in the club, 1 foot behind the camera, 1 foot in the director's chair. It's just like I was doing too much. I didn't enjoy it, and I never wanted to do it again. But he said he think they got mean because it was him. They felt he had a huge ego and thought he could do anything in the world. It's like, no, I wanted to direct to see if I could. I tried. I didn't do well. And then he didn't enjoy it. If he'd enjoyed it, he might have tried to direct more films. He was also hoping to collaborate with Richard Pryor, who he considered one of his childhood heroes. But he said, Richard Pryor would just come to the set, do his lines, and pretty much just go home. There wasn't really a collaborative process with him. But Eddie Murphy didn't find out until afterwards that Richard Pryor was actually very sick with multiple sclerosis. He was pretty heavy into MS at the, dealing with MS at the time, and he just wasn't himself. So he didn't, Eddie Murphy didn't know that until later. I think this is Red Fox's last film too. Last film he appeared in before he passed. So there's that too. But like this, and I think I agree with Eddie Murphy in that some of the criticisms that the film got were valid. Like I said, the film doesn't gel very well, but man, there's some solid work here. There's some, I hate to say it, Eddie Murphy's probably the weakest link in this film. He's essentially the main character, but the other characters have a lot. They feel more solid. Eddie Murphy's character, Quick, feels kind of two-dimensional. Granted, it's a comedy. The writing, like he said, was kind of not the best, but Sugar Ray feels like he has depth. And it's funny because Richard Pryor is not being the insane, goofy Richard Pryor usually is. He's more laid back. He's calmer. He's portraying, a serious club owner who riffs with his friends, but his bits aren't really necessarily the comedy bits. Red Fox is playing, a craps, not the guy who throws the dice at the craps table. I don't know what you call it, a craps boss. But he's going blind, so he can't see the dice. Delarice runs the girls. They're just a bunch of loudmouth, grumpy people just yell at each other all the time. And I really love parts of this film. And like I said, I saw it in the theater when it first came out, and I liked it. I couldn't understand why people hated the film so much. Like I said, it has problems. It's not the best film of the year, but I thought it was solid enough to be entertaining. If nothing else, go on YouTube and watch, the fight scene with Richard Pryor and Delarice from Harlem Nights. That's funny stuff. Stuff around that, the stuff of them not in the club, they're behind the scenes of the film, in my opinion, were some of the best. And it's a shame that this film didn't get more recognition. I consider it like a solid B movie as far as quality goes. There have been movies that were much worse that somehow people give less criticisms to. So I want to talk about a film that I don't own, but I can watch on streaming services. So Harlem Nights, decent but not great, in my opinion. My opinion tends to be, at least in this film, not the general consensus. Excuse me. General consensus is that this film sucks. I disagree. So that's my opinion. As always, thanks for watching. As always, my stuff is crap. And until next time, good hunting.